In 2026, AI won't just predict business outcomes, it will predict emotions. But can empathy, the most human of leadership skills, truly scale with machines? In this episode, we sit down with Charles, a coach to the next generation leaders, to explore how AI and emotional intelligence coexist without losing authenticity, trust, and purpose. Empathy isn't data, it's how you lead when the numbers go silent. Without further ado, let's welcome our speaker, Charles, to the podcast event and dive into the topic. Hi, Charles. Welcome to our show. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you very much, Prem. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for joining us. A small intro about yourself to the audience, Charles.
Yes, thank you. I am originally from Toronto, Canada, and I have lived in Hong Kong for coming up to 30 years. My background, I started my career in running a small business in Toronto, two businesses actually. And then when I came to Hong Kong, I moved into corporate HR. And I've spent almost 3 decades in corporate HR, and I'm now an executive and leadership coach here in Hong Kong.
Thank you for that, Charles. Let's start with, can empathy be engineered? The first question.
Well, that's a great question, and I think that I think no. You're talking about in respect to AI, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah. So I think that the issue is that AI cannot replicate true human empathy.
hmm.
It's AI is able to do a lot, and it's able to recognize patterns in when it's listening to conversations and when it's using facial patterns and recognition. But when it actually comes down to it, that's data,
So
and
can
the AIs are not able to actually replicate human empathy. That would be my answer.
Great, Charles. Now, with that, how when does emotional intelligence turn into an algorithm of empathy?
Well, algorithmic empathy refers to that point when emotional intelligence principles are formalized into code, so they're codified. For example, that allows AI and the machines, the LLMs, to recognize and interpret and simulate human emotional responses. And this occurs when abstract understanding is translated into data patterns and rules. So AI is great at recognizing patterns, at recognizing rules, and detecting frustration in an individual's tone. For example, when you're on a customer service call and the situation escalates. So that's that transformation of an innate human skill into a programmed scalable function. So AI is very, very good at do that. That's algorithmic empathy when those two intersect. And they effectively AI is simulating and responding to emotional cues, but it still lacks genuine understanding. It lacks consciousness, and it lacks that shared human experience that we all have that defines real empathy. So it's basically just functional mimicry. It's not an authentic emotional connection.
Can leadership values be codified into AI?
Well, I think at some point the conversation around AI and empathy becomes extremely mature. What we know from AI is that AI is extremely sophisticated, and that I think one of the questions and the challenges that I would have for people who are listening is that one thing we have to look at is the current maturity of leadership. And if maturity of leadership is falling short, then AI can replicate empathy, can replicate leadership compared to that particular context and that particular situation. And I think that is one of the issues that the planet is dealing with now, the global workforce is dealing with. Now, for one thing that AI can do, it could help leaders to learn how to be more empathetic. Because while they're a very mature leader will be able to understand the nuances of leadership, a leader who's still scaling and developing themselves may not have access or know about the basic skills necessary to be an empathetic leader with your team. And that would be, at some point, the conversation goes in that particular direction.
Charles, I hear a small break in your voice. Is there anything that you can set up, please? There is a break in the voice that I'm able to hear.
Oh,
And one of
it's
the
breaking up?
yeah, it's breaking up. I hear one comment saying we are barely able to hear what Charles is saying. So
Okay. Let me
yeah,
see
it's
if I
better
can.
now. It's
Oh,
better
better
now.
now? Okay.
It's better now. Yeah, it's better now.
All right.
Just coming to our next point, what happens when machine starts reading emotions?
Well, again, when machines are reading emotions, that could be a very good thing. If you actually look at the state of, I've done a lot of looking at, I've done a lot of looking at data around toxic leadership.
Okay.
And according to a recent survey by Life Meets Work Consulting, a staggering 56% of employees currently work under a toxic leader, which contributes to a detrimental work atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And that is 67% according to a recent Monster poll. And as long as toxic leaders exist, companies are going to face additional conflict, well-being issues, and legal risk. And it would be very easy to argue that in those situations, AI is going to be a superior emotional regulator than a leader. I had another statistic here.
There still seems to be a small lag in your voice, Charles.
Yeah, not sure that I can do anything about that on this end.
Is there a possibility that you drop and log in back again? Is that
Let me
possibility?
try one thing here and see if that helps.
Yeah.
Hold on one second.
Sorry, we have a small audio issue that we are facing with Charles. So Charles is rejoining.
Okay, is that any better?
Yeah, it is better now. Yeah.
That's better now. Okay. All right, great.
Yeah. Should leaders trust emotional analytics in decision making?
Again, I would say it depends on the maturity of the leader. If you look at the Gallup statistics and you look at a lot of surveys that are out there, the surveys are going to tell us that leaders have a ways to go before they master emotional intelligence and before they master empathetic leadership. So AI can be very, very effective at supporting leaders in that mastery and helping leaders to understand emotions and helping leaders to read emotions. And if you have a very, very mature leader, then I would say no. The mature leaders cannot. The mature leaders should not rely on AI. But while a leader is scaling in their understanding of emotional intelligence, then I would say that's okay. Is the sound better now, Prem? Oh, I've
I'm sorry.
lost.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I hear from Chandrakant saying that there is still an echo from your side, Charles.
Okay.
And
Yeah. Let me see if I can. What I can do on that with that.
there's a challenge even from my side, is what Chandrakant is saying. Let me fix that as well. Uh, okay. I'll put the question and I'll go on mute. I think there is some challenge that we are facing, an audio issue here, Charles.
Not
It's
any
both
better.
sides. It's better now, right? So
Okay. I
let's move
think you
on.
might be muted there, Prem. I can't.
Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. So
Is that
what
any
should
better? I
lead
think
us?
it's a little.
Yeah, Charles.
Is the sound better now?
Yeah, it is better. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh, what should leaders unlearn about empathy when AI joins the boardroom?
Yeah, I think that what leaders need to unlearn when AI joins the boardroom is they need. I think the first thing leaders need to do is they need to unlearn their biases, and the one thing is they need to unlearn the notion that empathy is truly an intuitive interpersonal skill that can't be scaled or analyzed. And they should also move beyond the idea that data-driven emotional insights from AI are cold or inferior, because again, if you have a leader who's very advanced in their emotional intelligence, then yes, they should be careful how much they rely on AI, because their own intuition and their own empathy reading might be superior. But if you have a leader, such as what Gallup is saying a lot of leaders are, uh, that are not good at AI, then when AI, or they're not good at emotions, or they are weak as an empowering, empathetic leader, then they can rely on AI, and they can see AI as a powerful tool to complement but not replace human understanding. So this means uh, letting go of sole reliance on that gut feeling and embracing a partnership where AI provides the what and human leaders apply the essential why and how of compassionate reaction. And they also think so. That's one bias that people need to let go of. They need to let go of the bias that AI is very is bad, because that may not necessarily be the case. In many cases, AI can be actually extremely helpful with people um, advancing their leadership skills and their empathetic skills.
Now, how do we keep the trust human in tech driven conversations?
Yeah, one of the things there are a lot of surveys are happening around the world related to AI, and one of the things that's happening is that the more people use AI, the more trust goes up. And a lot of people are afraid of AI. They're fearful of AI. They think that AI is a very bad thing. And as people get more immersed into AI, that trust builds towards AI because they realize that actually there are many, many ways that AI can help people and assist them. So uh, I think that we can trust humans by ensuring that technology remains a transparent tool and that it serves the conversation, that it's not a hidden manipulator, and ultimately trust is built by prioritizing human accountability. So accountability to being a true empathetic leader and designing systems that respect user autonomy and never allowing the pursuit of efficiency to override ethical empathy or to override ethical or override empathy at all. And what we definitely don't want to do is have AI be the only source of interpretation or demonstration of empathy. It's a data point. It's not. It's a data point. It's not the data point.
Okay. Now, coming, what safeguards protects physiological safety in algorithm decisions?
Well, for sure, effective safeguards include robust human oversight, where final impactful decisions are reviewed by people and they're transparent, right to the explanation of protocols. So people should understand if AI is being used, then how is AI being used? And additionally, strict ethical guardrails need to be put in place, and continuous bias audits need to be put in place. So there's a very famous story of one of the big 8 tech firms that was designed by a very specific set of individuals that had no diversity in the team that built the AI algorithm. And over time, what they realized when they were hiring into that tech company is that they were hiring a higher proportion of a certain number of individuals. And what they discovered was that that bias was actually built into the algorithm. And I won't mention the company, but a lot of people will know about it. You can just Google recruitment bias algorithms technology company, you'll find out who it was. But really continuous bias audits are essential to ensure that those algorithmic outputs don't create environments of fear, unfairness, or manipulation or discrimination. So those are important safeguards that need to be put in place. But the other thing I want to also emphasize is that psychological safety and empathy have been around. Those concepts have been around for much longer than what I would call retail AI has been around. So AI has really been what I would call retail for about 3 years, because that's when ChatGPT came available, and people started having much easier access to AI tools. I've been actually using AI tools for coming up to 10 years now in various HR practices. And one of the things that we used to do is sentiment analysis. So, I'm in human resources, and a lot of colleagues out there in HR will know that one of the things about human resources is that people will come to you with complaints, with issues, with all sorts of problems, and they will express those problems in various ways. They'll send you a complaint email, which might be really, really emotive, or it might be very, very plain and clinical and not emotive. But the really, really emotive ones, we would take out the personal data, and we would just take the emotive text, and we would drop it into a sentiment analysis, which as far back as 10 years ago, you could get access to on the internet. And we would have the AI give us some data feedback on the sentiment of that text, of that email, without the data, without the private data. So we would take out the names and any of the identifying features, and we would just say, tell us about this individual. And the AI, there was various AIs that were available on the internet that would feedback different types of emotions or not emotions. Sometimes we'd receive a very, very emotive email, and AI would come back and say, actually, this person's not emotive. This is actually a cultural issue. They're like this culturally. So you could actually just give them a very blunt answer back with a little bit of context. And in other situations, the AI would come back and say, yeah, this person's really upset. You need to write a much more cautious email when you write them back, because they're going to be expecting a little bit of hand holding in your response. So we got to remember that psychological safety and empathy have been around much longer than 3 years. So AI has been available for people to use for a while now, and industries have been using it for a while. But in terms of access for the average person in the workforce through what I would call retail AI, like ChatGPT and Gemini and DeepSeek and all the other tools that are available for us to use, they've only really been around for 3 years. But psychological safety and empathy, that's been around for decades. And so, yes, we can have safeguards there to protect psychological safety and to protect empathy in algorithmic decisions. Definitely, you need those safeguards. But I would also be asking the question, outside of algorithms and outside of AI, how is psychological safety going in general? And how is empathy going in general? Because the Gallup surveys and all the other surveys that are out there are telling us that leaders are stumbling. A significant proportion of leaders are stumbling when it comes to demonstrating empathetic leadership. And right now, that's what people need. We're in a very delicate situation on the planet at the moment. If you look at all that we've been through in the last 5 or 6 years, we've been through a horrific pandemic. We're watching the Ukraine war. We're watching what's happening in the Middle East with Gaza. We're seeing extraordinary political polarization all over the planet. If you go to the Trust Edelman survey, you'll see that there's a huge erosion of trust on the planet right now. It's gone down significantly in the last year, and the global population is expressing this through grievances. So all of this polarization, never mind climate change, all of these geopolitical issues, the economic uncertainty right now, we're in a situation where a lot of companies are in a no hire, no fire situation because they're not certain about the future of the global economy or their specific regional or country economy. So a lot of people are finding it difficult to find jobs, but at the same time, a lot of people may not be getting fired or laid off because we're in a sort of a no hire, no fire situation. So this is a time when leaders really need to be demonstrating empathy. They need to be watching out for well-being of employees, being really, really empathetic. I mean, we need to be looking after people right now. This is a time when people need to be helped and looked after, and more than ever, the collective of the team to support one another is important. Now, AI can be really, really helpful if a leader is struggling with being an empathetic leader or being a good manager. AI can be really, really helpful in providing a lot of insights and coaching questions and suggestions on how someone can be an empathetic leader. So that would be my response to the safeguards. I would say, yeah, the safeguards are important, but at the same time, I would be saying, how are leaders doing outside of AI?
Okay. Now, can coaches train AI-driven managers to lead with empathy?
Can coaches train AI-driven managers to lead with empathy?
Yeah. Yes.
So what do you mean by an AI-driven manager?
So currently, what is happening is we see a lot of image patterns that are built, not presence, empathy moded stuff, not coded stuff. People, right? So how do you look at that kind of a pointer? Is what we want to understand, Charles.
Yeah. So I would say that AI can absolutely assist in an extraordinary amount of way with helping to develop leaders and managers. I mean, one of the big problems you have, let's take performance management for an example. The number of times that I read case studies or I read survey statistics about managers who did not have one-on-one meetings with their staff, or managers and leaders who did not have meaningful performance evaluations or performance management conversations. And when you talk to the managers and the leaders about it, for them, it's time consuming, and it's difficult, and they may not be trained on how to have difficult conversations or how to have empowering conversations. That's something that AI can help managers to do. But the other thing, one of the most time-consuming pieces, aspects of performance management and annual appraisals and one-on-one conversations is the notes afterwards. So you might have a fantastic meeting with your manager for 1 hour about how you're doing at the end of the quarter or the end of the fiscal year and the performance cycle. But meanwhile, you don't see the paperwork for months because the manager doesn't get around with it. Well, this is one of the areas where AI can actually be really, really helpful. You can use an AI note taker to keep track of the notes. That can condense the time that the manager needs to write up the notes. The manager just needs to wordsmith, make sure that the AI notes are accurate to the conversation, and then can input that into the performance evaluation forms. So that's one of the areas where AI can be a huge value-added tool for managers and leaders to actually use AI when they're having, for example, performance management conversations. The other thing is a lot of people think that with technology speeding up and us being inundated with technology and learning how to use AI, a lot of people feel that there's more to do. And actually, the best practice is to find ways to use AI and to use technology to slow down your world and to get more done. So to give you an example of that, I'm aware of an individual who ran talent acquisition, and he worked with his recruiting team to have them use AI to keep track of interview notes in a data privacy guided way, so that everything was above board and transparent, and it was in a sandbox, shall we say, so that the data privacy of the candidates was protected. But he had the recruiters and the recruiting team use AI to get notes of interviews completed and inputted into the ATS much faster than they normally would without AI. And then he specifically told the recruiters, use that time to spend more time talking to candidates. Because the complaint that candidates have across the whole planet, about 99% of them, is that they don't get feedback fast enough from recruiters or from companies who are hiring from hiring managers. They're waiting forever. So this is one of the areas that AI can be a huge asset. So this talent acquisition leader said to his team, let's figure out a way to use AI to shorten the recruitment cycle, get rid of all that transactional data, and get AI to help us with that. And with that extra time, I'm expecting you to be on the phone with candidates, looking after them, giving them feedback, and telling them what the next steps are in the recruitment process. And that was a win for that talent acquisition team. So yes, absolutely. That's just one example of a way that AI can be a great coach and a great resource and leader. Now, when it comes down to hiring the individual, it's a human decision. It should not be an AI decision.
Want somebody to take decisions on us. I think AI should not be the point that we should get decisions done, and it should be a human centric decision that we should look at. Now, how do we look at coaching evolving, right? So how does coaching evolve in the digital first teams, Charles?
Yeah, so how does coaching evolve? Okay, one of the ways is I'm what we're seeing in statistics is that the companies that are implementing coaching models successfully are around 50% of the recipients of that coaching, and it's not exactly 50%. It's like around 48 to 52%, but it's about 50-50 of those recipients of coaching are preferring a hybrid model. So they like having a human coach that they can talk to regularly. At the same time, between conversations with the coach, they really like having an AI tool that's helping them develop their school skills, or sending them reminders of action items, or sending them reminders of questions for them to reflect upon overall. So that's what some of the leading edge companies are doing and finding when they're really going all in on using AI. Now, what we are finding is that people don't want only AI as coaches. Now, there are some tools out there, and there are some people that are adopting only AI, but they, again, you lose that human interaction, you lose that human intuition, you lose that human judgment. And when they run surveys on these individuals, so these are very much, as you would describe, digital first teams that are really embracing uh, digitization and really embracing AI in a coaching process. The surveys are telling us that half of them like a hybrid model, and the other half don't like a hybrid model. They would prefer just the human coaching. And when they prefer the human coaching, AI can still play a role, and that role is getting rid of the transactional stuff. So one of the ways that I use AI in my coaching, a number of ways. One of them is through sentiment analysis, which is extremely useful when you are having a virtual conversation. When you're face to face with somebody, it's very easy to tell when they're when you ask them a question, or when and they have a drain in energy, when their energy shifts, or they cross their arms, or cross their legs, and they become more defensive. That's easy to read in a one-on-one conversation. It's harder to see that in a virtual Zoom call. You're less likely to pick that up. So you can use AI to be a sentiment analysis, and then at the same time, you can use AI to keep track of notes. So in all my coaching, I use AI to keep track of notes. And this is an example of where bias and cognitive shortfalls comes into play, because you'd be amazed how much people forget or don't remember from a coaching conversation. Even though you tell them to write it down when they have a big insight, or they have an action item, you tell them to write it down. So what I have done with my clients is we use AI as a note taker. At the end of the conversation, we usually have a set of questions that we want to reflect on. I then go into the AI, I pull those out of the AI, and I send them to the client. I send them the transcript of the conversation, a summary of the conversation, and I send them a whole bunch of very fascinating questions. So for example, the month we're going to be into 2026, and some of the people that I coach have not set goals for 2026, which are written down. But I'll have a conversation with them about what they want to accomplish in 2026, and then afterwards I'll ask the AI to organize the answers to all those questions in a nice long list for them. And the next thing they know, they actually have their goals for 2026 written down. So I say to them, you do have goals, you just don't have them expressed properly. You haven't actually taken the time to write them down. So then after the AI gives them the printed version of the notes, I then instruct them to write them out on a piece of paper, because that's much more powerful than having it on your device, or having it on a piece of paper that you're staring at. Right, then go the next step and write it down. So there's a lot of ways where coaching is assisting those real digital first teams. But again, when it comes down to human decisions, there should be a human making human decisions. AI should not be making human decisions. It's us who has the intuition and the consciousness.
Thanks for that, Charles. What you are saying in as many words is that we should rely on AI to get some of the mundane work done, and we should look at AI only to look at getting those works done, rather taking decisions. And when it comes to decisions into critical situations, I think it should always be the human who takes the decision, right? So that's the point that you are driving to. Now, does AI challenge how leaders define humanity?
Absolutely, AI can definitely challenge that. And and again, this brings me back to a sophisticated, experienced, mature leader who's very, very good. It's going to be a lot harder for AI to challenge that individual. For managers and leaders who are growing and who are developing, AI can be very good at challenging them. And in fact, you could actually ask a question. One of the things that people don't realize AI can be, because I think some of the earlier language models that were programmed in AI were designed to be super empowering and super supportive and super agreeable. If you actually put a prompt into AI and you say to Perplexity or ChatGPT, and I would recommend this only be done inside a sandbox so your data is protected. As I often say, if you're not paying for AI, you are the product. So if you are just using DeepSeek in general, be extremely careful about putting any private data into an AI that you don't know what kind of data privacy you're entitled to out of that AI. But meanwhile, you can create a prompt. For example, let's say you are that mature, sophisticated, empathetic leader. You could create a prompt, and you could even ask AI to create a prompt. You can say, "Hey, I'm a mature, sophisticated leader. I have got 25 years experience. I manage teams of hundreds, thousands of people. I have department heads. I have a multifunction department, for example, sophisticated operation. I'm in tech, whatever. I want to become a better empathetic leader. Challenge me on things that I can do. Give me an autonomy. Give me 10 points that I can reflect on to challenge me to be a more effective empathetic leader." And chances are AI will give you a very, very good answer. Even the sophisticated, mature, empathetic leaders. And then the ones who are not yet there yet, they're still developing, then definitely AI will be able to give you excellent resources.
What happens when machines mirror compassion better than people? Is that a possible stage that we are looking at, Charles?
Well, I think that's unlikely to happen. So one thing we do know, and I have this on a slide here. I've got some statistics on a slide here. Studies indicate a high degree of empathy from leadership, with employees in empathetic workplaces being 4 times more likely to stay long term. Okay, so empathetic leadership is good. We know that. And let me just check another one here. Perceived compassion. So there's been a lot of studies across various countries that found that third parties rated AI responses as more compassionate, understanding, responsive than those from human experts, including trained crisis responders, first responders, especially when addressing negative experiences. So somebody's in a situation where they need an empowering, empathetic response. You've got trained crisis responders, and they've run tests on the crisis responders and the AI supporting those individuals and seeing, okay, which one is better. And the recipients of those situations, the third parties, have rated the AI responses as more compassionate and understanding. And I would say that that's not an AI problem. That's a human problem. That we need to train, what's missing with the crisis responders, or what's missing in the leaders or the managers or the well-being experts or the HR department, whoever it is. It could be anybody, anything. What's missing in them that they're falling short of AI? And in that particular case, you can use AI to uh, uh, have those crisis responders and have those individuals become more effective at their compassion. So in these studies, it's perceived compassion. It's not necessarily actual compassion. And it's important to recognize the difference between the two, because I think that true compassion will not be mirrored by machines. It might be perceived compassion, but true compassion and true empathy will not get better. Will not be better than humans are going to do that better. So AI can be like a mirror for people to become more effective, but it's not a replacement. Individuals become more effective.
Charles, I think there was a challenge again there. So, what happened? We spoke on what happens on the machines taking up pointers, right? How can organizations design empathy to scale?
Well, the best example of an organization that's done that is Microsoft. So as you will, I'm sure as you know, Satya Nadella started his career about 35 years ago in Bangalore as a entry-level engineer, and he rose up in Microsoft. And when he took over the reins of Microsoft, he recognized that Microsoft needed to make a cultural shift. And that cultural shift was becoming a more growth mindset, more empathetic organization. And he embarked on that journey. There's a lot of case studies, a lot of articles on how Satya Nadella has transformed Microsoft. Literally, it started with him taking a stand that he was going to make uh, 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 Microsoft a more growth mindset, more empathetic organization. And he has successfully done that. It's taken him a few years to do that, but he's successfully done that. And the way he's done that is by he's used he's had the support of outside organizations who've come in and have trained the uh, managers and the leaders and then the employees in bite-sized, small, small daily habits on empathy and growth mindset, and he's done that en masse. So you've had it's again. I said earlier that psychological safety has been around for a while, and so vision is, has been around forever. Vision starts at the top. If you have a vision that the leaders do not believe in, there's no use having a vision. But Satya Nadella's vision for Microsoft's culture and for having a growth mindset type of company that emulated empathetic values and expressed empathetic values and all the values that come along with empathy. He took a stand for that at the top of the organization when he took over the reins of Microsoft. And then he said, everybody gets trained, everybody participates. Now, I don't know the actual final numbers, but they're above 90% in terms of the last number I heard a couple of years ago, above 90% in terms of the people who were trained at scale. And so he embedded those principles of empathy into Microsoft. And I'm sure that along the way they had AI assist them with that. I don't know the exact answer to that, but that I think that's an answer to your question.
Does Charles, and looking at that, when we look at having everybody to have the training done and you have to build up the skills, I think that's a very important. What role does culture play when AI tools are everything?
Well, culture, you have to make sure that culture does not turn into AI. AI is a tool that can help us to reinforce culture. So you could program AI to reinforce values of empathy, compassion, growth mindset. You can use AI to help train managers and leaders and employees on how to have growth mindset, for example, growth mindset type of conversations. But at the end of the day, that the AI cannot replace that. It's all, again, it's going to come down to the humans.
Now, coming to the next point that I want, what will define empathetic leadership in the next 3 years, Charles?
Okay, what's going to define empathetic leadership? I have a concept which I call love as a leadership skill. And I would suggest that empathetic leadership is love as a leadership skill. If you can put up the presentation, I will just show people here the key aspects
Which
of
one, which presentation you would like to bring it up, Charles?
the power of knowing.
Yeah, okay, bringing it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So one thing I
Slides.
want to, yeah, this one I want to show on this, just to come back to the sentiment analysis and how AI can assist with sentiment analysis. You can see here, this is an example of AI that I used over a 90-minute coaching conversation. And you can see in the middle of the conversation that the sentiment dropped. That's the pink line. The sentiment dropped significantly down into below 60. And AI, the read.ai would say that anything that's above 80 is good. And when it dropped below 80 or below 60, I was able to actually stop and ask the person how they were doing and what were they were feeling in that moment on two occasions. One's below 70, one's below 60. So this is an example of sentiment analysis. But if we flip to the next slide, which answers your question, which would be slide 32. If we go to slide 32, and I can actually do that on this side. There we go. This is several years ago, I did a talk called Love is a Leadership Skill. And the answer to your question about what empathetic leadership will look like in the future is, I would call it love as a leadership skill. Empathetic leadership would look like uh, practicing love as a leadership skill. And what does, maybe if you stop sharing, I'll flip it to 34 to that slide, and then you can put it back up. Oh, it's moving. Yeah, I'll just flip it to the correct slide here, and then you can put it back up. Just give me a second. So I did a TEDx talk on love as a leadership skill a couple years ago. It's on my LinkedIn profile, and people are welcome to go and read that. It gives you a 20-minute overview on practicing love as a leadership skill, and also describes a little bit of the state of global leadership. Right now, the model of global leadership is not great for people. They're seeing a lot of polarization in many countries. I'm not singling out one particular country. In many countries, we're seeing polarization. So if you share the power of knowing again, that love is a leadership skill slide, that slide should come back up. We'll go back one more here.
It's this one, Charles?
No, it's not slide number,
No,
the
it's
one right.
not slide number, the one right.
Oh, it's slide number 32.
Slide number 32.
Let me answer
Yeah.
your question
Let me
without
answer your question
the
without the
slide
slide
then.
then.
So
So
love is a leadership skill looks like professional intimacy. So that means getting to know you. I think you can take down this slide, and I'll just speak to your question. So it means professional intimacy, and what professional intimacy, obviously intimacy in the workplace is not the right thing to do, but professional intimacy is how I would describe it. So professional intimacy means getting to know your employees, really getting to know them, what is important to them, what motivates them, what are things that they're afraid to tell you, what are their fears, and one of the things I often coach managers to ask their teams is this question: what is the most important thing for me to know about you right now? So a manager or a leader can ask someone in a one-on-one conversation that question, and they will find sometimes people will give them a workplace answer. So they might say, I need more to do, or I have too much to do, or I need more resources, or I'd really like to do a certain type of training, or I would like more time with you, or I'd like to network more in the organization. That's a workplace answer. But sometimes people will say to you, you know why I always need to leave at 5:30 on Thursday is because that's when I pick my daughter up from daycare, or that's when I have to pick my daughter up from her after school activity. And that's the one thing I don't want to miss every single week. Now that's something that manager or leader would never know unless they ask that question, what's the most important thing for me to know about you? So that's an example of professional intimacy and passionately knowing your employees. So if you know that an employee is going through a difficult time, if a manager or leader knows that an employee has a family member or a very good friend who's going through a serious illness, a terminal illness, it's taking the time to stop and talk to them and say, hey, how's your mom doing? How's that friend of yours doing? Are they recovering? Are they getting better? How are you feeling about it? And then that demonstrates real commitment to their success, not just in their professional life, but also in their personal life. And those are the sorts of things that make a difference. And that's what empathetic leadership is going to look like in the future. Now, where does AI fit into that? Well, if a manager wasn't sure what to ask, or because maybe they're just not good at those particular things, or maybe they're really introverted, they could always go into an AI and they could describe their situation and say, hey, I'm dealing with an employee that's struggling with this type of situation. What questions could I ask them that would demonstrate I'm being an empathetic leader? And the other thing I would recommend is AI will often give you back long answers. So I often start with short answers. I say, give me that answer in 4 or 5 bullet points. Give me 4 or 5 questions I could ask. I don't need 4 or 5 pages. I need 4 or 5 questions. And then I look to see what that's like. And probably the most common prompt I put into AI is try again. And I'll say to the AI, try again. I don't like that answer. Try again. Give me another set of questions. But that's what empathetic leadership looks like. It looks like practicing love as a leadership skill, really passionately knowing your employees and having a real commitment to their success, not superficial commitment, but a real commitment to their success.
One last question that I would like to add is that how will leadership balance humanity with automation going on all sectors, right? We are talking about automation making mundane jobs going off, right? So that's what we've been talking. And how will leaders balance that humanity and automation together, Charles?
Well, I think one of the things that leaders need to do is they need to get committed to reskilling their workforce. So the companies who are succeeding at AI are the companies who are really making an effort to reskill the workforce. There's an example of a huge agricultural firm in the United States. I don't know the name of it, but if you Google it, you can probably find it. And they are one of the largest uh, recipients of produce goods in the United States. So all the vegetables, all the fruit goes through their facilities, and their facilities are monster big. Like we're talking acres of warehouses. And normally it gets handled by human beings driving around in go-karts and forklifts. And several years ago, they transformed the warehouses and they turned all the drivers into automated go-karts that were driven by AI, and everything was automated and connected into a Wi-Fi system. So if a cart broke down that was carrying produce, all the other carts knew to move around that cart until it got fixed. And we're talking about hundreds of people here who used to drive these carts and forklifts carrying the produce who no longer did. And the managers and the leaders sat down with the workforce and they said, if you want to stay with the company, we will retrain you. We will send you to college to learn how to fix these machines. We will train you to college. We'll send you to college to train you how to learn how to code the machines that drive them, et cetera, et cetera. They had thousands of employees, and through the entire project, which took several years to implement, they only lost 1% of their workforce. 1% of their workforce opted in, and the remaining workforce said, you can count on me. If you're going to invest in my training and you're going to reskill me for the future, I'm going to stick around because I love this company, I love the initiative, and I think this has a lot of possibility. Now, I've described it to you in just 1 or 2 minutes. If you actually read the case study, it's fascinating because they took values into consideration. They trained managers on how to have the appropriate conversations. They really worked hard to encourage people to get retrained and to stay in the company. So there's a lot around the edges and throughout the whole process that they did that made a difference. But that's what automation in the future, best practice, would look like. Retraining people so that they can work with AI and not necessarily be afraid of AI.
This, Charles, I would do a small summary on the topics that we have discussed. We had the pointers that we wanted to cover in our discussion today. There seems to be a audio issue that we are facing still, and many of the comments are related to that. We apologize for having that issues. We will check with the streaming team to see how it is can be resolved in further discussions. I would like to take a summary on what we've discussed, Charles, so far. Empathy will be the hardest skill to digitize and the easiest to lose. That's the first point that I think we are taking back. And the second is data driven empathy works only when anchored in human intent, is the second point that we wanted to bring it up. Emotional intelligence leaders build trust faster than algorithms, because trust is one thing that we need to bring up when we look at any automation or any team that we need to sustain, and the leadership should look at more building trust then build algorithms, is what we understand. AI can coach behaviors, but only humans can inspire belief, is what we are talking about. And the next leadership revolution is going to be emotional literacy, is what we are saying. And that's the whole 1 hour conversation that we had. Empathy is no longer a soft skill, it's a survival skill, is what we are saying. If you are inspired with the episode, what we think, what means to lead both head and heart, share this with your leader and the teams where we can, who are ready to look at bridging intelligence with intuition. Because at the leadership Titan series, we predict the future, we feel it first and then try to spread it across, right? So that's what we would like to say. As there is, again we say, there is a challenge that we are facing on the audio side. Thank you for being with us. And Charles, thank you for joining us today. It's been great having you today. Apart from the technical challenges, the session went well on the audio. Apologies for that. And with this, we would like to conclude the session. And any final words that you would like to add, Charles, before we conclude the session?
Well, I just encourage people to not be afraid of AI, but embrace AI and not to lose the human component of empathy. So there's a lot of things AI can do to help us become more empathetic leaders. But at the end of the day, it's a human conversation, it's human intuition, and let's not lose sight of that. And I encourage everyone to practice love as a leadership skill, with or without AI.
With or without AI. Yeah. Thank you, Charles. Thank you for that. And with this, we would like to conclude our show for the day. Thank you for joining us and have a good day. Thank you.